Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. So we can draw out our place value grid to help us out with this question. We've got thousands, hundreds, tens, and units. So we'll need another one there. So thousands go here, hundreds here, tens here, and then units here. So this says 2,000. So a 2 will go in the thousands column. 30, so that'll be a 3 there, and 2. So we need to fill in a 0 here to keep that 2 as 2,000, otherwise that would collapse and it would become 232. So the answer is 2032. Multiples are times tables, so the multiples of 2 are the times table of 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc, etc. So the only number in this list that is in the 2 times table is the 6. For us to create the largest number, we need to pick the biggest digits for the start of the number. So the biggest digit is 7, then 6, then 4, then 3. But the question says it wants the largest even number, so we need to just swap the last 2 around to make sure that it is even. So our answer is 7,634. If I split this shape into 2 sets of 6 blocks, when we're asked to shade in 3/6, for each one of those, or each set of blocks, I'm going to shade in 3 of the 6. So that's 3 for the first set, and this is 3 for the second set. And that's our answer. Now you might notice that 3 over 6 is the same as a half, because we can divide on 1 by 3, and so all I need to do is shade in a half. Or you might convert 3 over 6 into 6 over 12, and there's 12 squares altogether, so it's 6 of the 12 squares. There's lots of ways of doing this question. And to work this out, we just need to type in 0.3 on the calculator, and then press a button that mostly, on most calculators, looks like this, and it will just square it for us. If you can't find that button, all you need to do is do 0.3 times 0.3, and that will give you the same answer of 0.09. Whenever we multiply 2 negatives, we always get a positive, so we know our answer will be positive. We're going to do 9 times 12, which is going to be 108, and v times v, which is going to be v squared. So 55% is the same as 55 over 100. And what I can do is I can divide top one of the fraction by 5. And so that is going to equal 11 over 20. Now in total there are 20 squares here, because there's 5 across and 4 down. 5 times 4 is 20. And if there's 20 squares and we're looking to shade in 11 20ths, it's just going to be 11 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If we write in how many sides each shape has, triangle has 3, quadrilateral 4, pentagon 5, hexagon 6, you'll notice the number of vertices is twice the amount of each of them. So if a shape has 15 sides, we just times that by 2 and it will have 30 vertices. I'm going to start just by copying out the question. Now when we're asked to solve, it means we need to find x. Okay, and I'm going to start by putting in my solving lines, which are just lines to the left and right of the equal sign. And what we need to do is get x on its own on the left hand side. Well, what's stopping x from being on its own? We've got this 12 here. Well, what's that 12 doing to the x? Well, it's timesing it by 12. So we need to do the opposite of that to get rid of it. What is the opposite of times 12? Divided by 12. Now these lines show us we've got to do the same to the left and right. So if I divide the left hand side by 12, I have to divide the right hand side by 12. So on the left hand side we just have the x, which is what we want. On the right hand side we do 36 divided by 12. How many 12s in 36? That would be 3. So our solution is x equals 3. So what we need to do is find out where the graph is at its highest, and so it's highest here. And so if we go down from there, we find out what year it is. Well, these years seem to be going up in one, so that's 1950, 1951, 1952. So the answer would be 1952. So for this question, I think of the ratio in terms of piles. So food is getting 37 piles of money, and drink is getting 4 piles of money. So we've got to first of all work out how many piles of money we have. So we're going to do 37 plus 4, and that will give us 41. So we've got 41 piles of money. Now each pile is equal, so to work out how much one pile or one part is worth, and in maths we call them parts, but they're just like piles of money, we're going to do 13,161, the total amount of money, and we're going to divide it by how many piles there are, 41. When we do that, we get 321. So each pile is worth 321 pounds. Now, if we look at how many piles drink had, well, they had 4 piles. So we're going to just work out 4 lots of the 321, which is going to be 1,284. So they spent £1,284 on drink. First thing we need to do is work out the area of the wall, and so to do that we're just going to multiply the 44 by the 40. So 44 times 40 is 1,760. And next thing we notice is that each tin covers 10 meters squared. So it actually means we can work out the fact that there are 1,760 meters squared in total for our wall. And if each tin covers 10 meters squared, then we will need 176 tins. That's the amount of tins we need. And each tin costs £5.70, so it'd be 176 times the 5.7, or yeah, £5.70, or you could do it as 570 pence and convert it at the end, and that gives us a price of 1003.2. And so as money, that would be £1,003.20. So we know that the mean is the sum of numbers over the amount. But in this question, we're actually given what the mean is. We're given that that is 29. We're also given the fact that there are 4 cards, so we're given the amount. So what we can do is just get our lines in and solve this. So what we're going to do is just times both sides by 4. So we're going to do 29 times 4, which is 116. And so we know that the sum of the numbers will be 116. So all we need to do is to find the 4th card, is get that 116 and just take away the numbers that we know. And when we do that, we get the answer 26. Now you can easily check this by adding up 37, 26, 27 and 26 again, and then dividing it by 4, and you will get 29. To draw this graph, we need to find 3 coordinates, plot them, and then draw the graph. So we're going to pick x equals -2, x equals 0, and x equals 2. So I'm going to start with x equals -2, and I'm just going to look at the equation here and substitute in the -2. So y equals 2 times -2, take away 6. So 2 times -2 is -4, and -4 take away 6 is -10. So let's plot that, -2 minus 10 would be down here. Next one I'm going to do is x equals 0. So we've got y equals 2 times 0, take away 6. 2 times 0 is just 0, so 0 take away 6, which is just going to be minus 6. So 0 is going to be minus 6. And finally we've got x equals 2. 2 times 2, take away 6. It's going to be 4, take away 6, and that's going to be minus 2. So 2 is going to be at minus 2. Now you need to make sure that you draw the full graph in, and not just the graph between the points. So make sure it continues all the way to where the graph finishes. And there we go. So firstly, we're going to work out what the percentage increases are as a multiplier. So we start off with 100%. Jane has a 1.2% interest pay rise, sorry, and so that would be 101.2%, and we divide that by 100 to make it a multiplier. So the multiplier is 1.012, so we get the 20,000 times it by 1.012, and that gives us 240. Next we do the same for Lenny, so that is Jane. And so let's do Lenny. And so that's 100% plus the 1.5% will be 101.5%. Make that a multiplier, 101.5%. We divide that by 100. Which give us 1.015, and then finally what we do is we get the 17,000 times it by the multiplier, and when we do that we get 255. So Lenny has 255, Jane has 240. So it says which of the employees has a larger pay increase and by how much. So the answer will be Lenny, and it's by £15 because that's the difference between these. Just like when you're simplifying fractions, you can't have decimals at the top and bottom. You can't have decimals at the top, at the left and right of a ratio. So we're going to have to get rid of this decimal, and the way we're going to do that is just simply times each side by 10, and that will leave 4, and that would be 60. Now we can simplify this further, because I can divide left and right by 2. So that would be 2 to 30. And I can actually do the same again. I can divide them by 2 again. And that would be 1 to 15. Now you might have just divided by 4, and that would also give you the right answer. In fact, there's a couple of different methods that you can get the same answer with. The question asks us to find the bearing of A from B. That means we're at B and we're looking at the bearing of A. So bearings always start from north and go clockwise, so we're looking for this angle here. Now there's a few ways of doing this, a few different ways of doing it. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to find this angle here, and the angle that we're given, the 35 degrees, and this angle are interior angles or co-interior or allied angles, because if we look, they make a beautiful C shape when they're connected, like so. So to work out this angle, what we can do is we can do 180 take away 35, and that would give us 145 degrees. And so this will be 145 degrees. And the method we use for that is that they are interior angles. And then to find the angle we're looking for, we can just do 360 take away the 145, which will give us, 215 degrees. And the reason for that is that they are angles at a point. Angles at point add up to 360 degrees. So my answer will be 215. So the only options for the next card are for them to be higher, lower, or equal to 12. We already know that the probability for it being higher is 19% and lower is 28%, and all probabilities have to add up to 1, or in this case, because it's percentages, 100%. So to work out the probability that is missing, we're going to take away the 19% and the 28% away from 100% to see what's left, and that's 53%. To find the area of a circle, we use the formula area equals pi r squared, or pi times r squared. We're given that the fact that the radius is 12, so it'd be pi times 144. Type that into the calculator and you get 452.389 blah blah blah. And the question asks us to round it to 2 decimal places, so that would be 452.39. So when asked to describe a relationship, I always start off the sentence as the amount of, and I pick this one here, the X one, red sweets increase the amount of, and then I pick this one here, green sweets, and this is the only word here that changes. So what we do is we look at what happens as we're going to the right, as red sweets increase, what's happening to the green sweets. Well, the green sweets start really high and then slowly are going down and down. So the word here is decrease. Obviously the other option is that they increase. An increase would be if they ended up making this kind of correlation here. I'm going to first of all work out how many parts there are in total. So we've got James with 9 parts, 6 for Andy, and 7 for Tia. So in total we've got 9 plus 6 plus 7, which is 22 parts in total. And we're asked to find a fraction Tia receives. Now Tia's the last one, so she is receiving the 7 parts. So it's 7 out of 22. For each of these options, try and construct in your head the triangles that would be made from these lengths. And I'm going to give an example for question D, or for option D. And I'm going to construct my triangle just with sticks. So we're going to start off with our first stick, which is 19 centimeters. Then we're going to do another stick, which is going to be 37 centimeters. And we've got one last stick, which is 61 centimeters. Now, looking at the first 2 sticks, the actual combined distance of them, so when we add them together, so be 19 centimeters plus 37 centimeters, is 56 centimeters. So that's the combined width of them. And you can see that that actually wouldn't be able to create a triangle if the third stick is 61 centimeters. So the side here could combine with this side. So we could move this whole stick here onto this side here, but we can't actually make a triangle with it because the 2 lengths that we've got won't ever reach the end bit here. They just won't ever reach that bit to be able to create the triangle. And I'm just going to put that back. So our answer is option D. To work out the mean, what we need to do is work out the sum of the numbers, basically add them all up and divide that by the amount of numbers. Now, when we're giving the numbers in a frequency table, it's a little bit more tricky to find the sum of the numbers and the amount of the numbers, but there are some really, really strong techniques. The first thing I want to just highlight is that a frequency table is just saying that there are 5 lots of 4. So we can imagine writing out 5 lots of 4. Okay, and then there are 10 lots of 5. So you can imagine writing 10 lots of 5. I'm not going to, but that's all a frequency table is saying. Okay, so how do we work out what the numbers will add up to? Well, let's look at those 4s. How many 4s are there? Well, there's 5 of them. And what are 5 4s? Well, to work that out, we just times them. 5 4s are 20. So we create this FS column, S for sweets. Okay, and what that's telling us is all of those 4 sweets added together are 20. If we keep going through this, there are 10 lots of 5, well that just makes 50, 5 lots of 6, which is 30, 8 lots of 7, which is 56, and then 2 lots of 8, which is 16. Now altogether what do they add up to? Well, we know these add up to 20, these add up to 50, these add up to 30, etc, etc. But altogether they're going to add up to whatever this column adds up to. And we can show that as a kind of sigma fs. And we just add up the 20, 50, 30, 56, 16. So we add up that column, which is going to be 172. So we know the top is 172. Now the second part is to work out how many numbers there are. Well, there are 5 numbers in the first column, 10 in the second column, 5 in the next row I should say, 8 in the next row, and then 2 in the next row. So to work out how many there are in total, we just add those up, and we call that the sum of F column. And we do 5 plus 10 plus 5 plus 8 plus 2, add those together, which is 30. So all we need to do to work out the mean is 172 divided by 30, which is going to be 5.733 blah blah blah. It wants it to 2 decimal places, so what we're going to do is just round that to 5.73. I'm going to start by writing out all the outcomes. So I'm going to start with trout. So for trout, as a main, I could have had biscuits for dessert. Trout as a main, I could have had cheesecake for dessert. Trout as a main, I could have pancakes as a dessert. Then I'm going to move on to a curry for main. So for curry for main, I could have had biscuits, could have had cheesecake, and I could have had pancakes. Now, to work out the probability, it's the amount of successful outcomes over the total amount of outcomes. So successful for this is a curry and pancakes. So curry and pancakes is a successful outcome, so it's just 1. The total amount are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the chance of me picking at random a curry and pancakes is 1 over 6. If I start by drawing a number line, and we're going to put the 110 in the middle. Now I'm going to label the next one down and the next one up. It says to the nearest 10, so the next one down would be 100, and the next one up would be 120. Now we're interested in the cutoff, and the cutoff point is between the 2 numbers. Okay, so that's the cutoff point. If it goes above that cutoff point, it would have rounded to the next number up. So if the number was here, it would round to 120. If the number is on the cutoff point, which we can see is going to be 115, then we know it would round up. So we need to find the biggest number in this part here. So this part here, and it includes this line actually, so it includes this line. So all the numbers that would have rounded to 110 would have been 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, which would be here. But if it was 115, it would have rounded to 120. So 114 is the biggest number it could have been before rounding to 120. And we know it didn't round to 120 because in the question it says it's 110 to the nearest 10. So our answer is 114. The formula y equals mx plus c includes this m, and the m means the gradient. So if we're looking for something that is parallel to y equals 9x plus 18, we're looking at this number here. And for it to be parallel, it needs to have the same gradient. So we could just write y equals 9x plus or subtract anything. Or we could just write y equals 9x. I'm going to say plus 5. When proving that two triangles are congruent, and congruent just means exactly the same, there are 4 different proofs. Either you can work out the two angles and a side in that order, or an angle, a side, and an angle in that order are the same. A side, an angle, then a side again are the same. 3 sides are the same, or we've got right angle, hypotenuse, and side. Now in this question we don't have a right angle, so we can get rid of that. We have a side but only one side, so we're not going to use the 3 sides. And again, we don't have 2 sides, we only have one side, so we can get rid of this one. So it's really down to the top one. Well, what do we have? We have an angle, then a side, then an angle. So it's 139 degrees, then 13 meters, then 49 degrees in that order. So it's an angle, side, and then an angle, side, then an angle. So it's going to be this one here. So we're going to say ASA, or we could say AAS stroke ASA, or just leave it as ASA. I probably would leave it as ASA to say it's the angle, side, angle. So the symbol here basically means and the way I remember it is if you draw that symbol and just put a line through it, you can make the word and. So we're looking at the probability of getting something that is in A and C. So the only ones that are in A and C are this 8 and this 9 here. So we're going to just add the 8 and the 9 together, which give us 17. Now we need to then work out how many numbers there are in total, so that's all of them. So 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 plus 3 plus 11 plus 6. So we need the total, which is 54. And then we get the 17, and we put that over the amount in total, so over 54. So the only way of answering this question is to work out what these are as ordinary numbers. And so 7 times 10 to the power of 7 would be 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 9 times 10 to the power of 4 would be 90,000. So that would be 9, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so we're just subtracting them like that. And so we'll get 6, 9, 9, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. And obviously if this is on the calculator paper, just type it into your calculator. There are no tricks here. You can't do anything with the 7 and the 9. You're not subtracting powers or anything. You're just literally typing in what it says. And there's a button on the calculator like that that you will need to use. So if you don't know what that is, ask your teacher or ask someone to help you out with that. So we're going to start just by writing this out. So m equals 7 brackets x minus 10. And we're going to put our solving lines in. I'm going to start by expanding the brackets. And we don't need to. We could divide both sides by 7, but I think this is a bit easier. And we're going to subtract, or we're going to add 70 to both sides. So we're trying to get x as the subject. So we're trying to get x on its own. And we're next going to divide both sides by 7. So we have m plus 70, all of that over 7 equals x. So x equals m plus 70 over 7. So the first thing we're going to do is work out the area of the trapezium. And the formula for that is half brackets a plus b times h. Now a and b have to be the parallel sides. So here we've got the 2 parallel sides here. Just pick a different colour. Here and here. So that is a and b. And then the h is the perpendicular distance between them. So perpendicular means it hits it at right angles, so that's what we've got here. So the area would be half times A, which is 28, plus B, which is 14, times the height, which is 14. And so that would be 294. Next we'll do the circle. Now it doesn't look like we've got anything for the circle, but actually the height here is actually the height of the circle as well. So the height of the circle is the same as the diameter. So the diameter of the circle is 14, therefore the radius would be half of that, which is 7, and the area of the circle is pi times the radius squared. So it would be pi times 7 squared, which will be 153.938 blah blah blah. Now I'll keep that in my calculator, because next thing we'll do is the shaded area part, and it says we want to work out the area of the shaded region. So the area will be the total area, which will be the trapezium, take away the area that we don't want, which is this bit here, which will be the circle. So the trapezium's 294, the circle's 153.93 blah blah blah, and when you do that you get 140.061 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it would be 140.06. So first thing to realise is that the formula for a volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So what we need to do first of all is work out the volume of the water butt that James currently has. So we're going to do the volume equals pi times the radius, which is 89 squared, times the height, which is 189. And when we do that we get 1497069 lots of pi. And I'll keep this in terms of pi just for simplicity. Now, what we want is we want the volume to stay the same, so we're going to keep that as the volume, 1497069 pi. But we want the radius to change, so instead of the radius being 89, we want the radius to be 103. So times 103 squared. And we're trying to work out what the height is. Okay, so first thing we can do actually is just cross off the pi's from both sides. We don't really need them at all. And then we can get our solving things in, our solving lines, and we can divide both sides by the 103 squared. And on the left hand side we get 141.113 blah blah blah, and on the right hand side we get h. So the height will be 141.113. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that would be 141.11. To convert from meters to centimeters we times by 100. But here we're asked to convert between meters cubed and centimeters cubed. So we times it by 100 per dimension. Meters cubed and centimeters cubed is volume, which is 3 dimensions. So what we do is we times it by 100 3 times, times 100, times 100, times 100, or times by 100 cubed. So we get our amount, 0.15, times it by 100 cubed, and that will give us 150,000. So our answer is 150,000 centimeters cubed. To find an error interval, what we need to do is find the smallest and largest that a number can be. So I start by just drawing a quick number line, and we put our number in the middle, which is 89.6. Now we're looking to the nearest tenth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the next number down and the next number up in tenths. So the next number down would be 89.5. The next number up would be 89.7. Now the bounds, the upper and lower bound, the maximum and minimum number it could be before rounding, are going to be at the halfway points. So here and here. And so all we need to do is work out what those numbers are. So halfway between 89.5 and 89.6 is 89.55. And halfway between 89.6 and 89.7 is 89.65. So those are going to be our lower and upper bounds. But how do we show it as an error interval? Well, we put t in the middle because it tells us that t is representing the time. And we show it with inequalities. Now, the number can be 89.55, but it can't be 89.65 because that would round to 89.7. So we say everything that's less than but not equal to. There's a lot going on with this question, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in all of the time signs that we don't normally show. So we've got 10 times 12x times y to the power 4 times 13 times x to the power 4 times y to the power 4. And I'm going to reorder these to put the numbers together, first of all. And with multiplying, it doesn't matter which way around you do it, so I'm not changing anything. I'm going to put the x's together. And I'm going to put the y's together. So, first thing to do is 9 times 13, which is just 117. Then we've got x to the power of 12 times x to the power 4. Now we know when we multiply two powers of the same base, and the base is x on both of those, we just add the powers. So it's 12 plus 4, which is 16. It'll be x to the power of 16, and then y to the power of 4 times y to the power of 4, we just add them together, so it's y to the power of 8. First thing we need to do is work out the volume of this prism, and it's a trapezium based prism. So the volume will be the area of the cross section, or area of the trapezium, times the length, how 3D the prism is. So trapezium is half a plus b h, and then times the length. Now a and b are the two parallel sides, which will be this one and this one. And then the h is the perpendicular line that hits both of them at 90 degrees, which is what perpendicular means, between the bases. So this will be the 25 meters here. So it's going to be half, and then we're going to add 1 and 5, times that by 25. The length is how 3D it is, so it would be that 10 there. So we're going to times that by 10, and that will give us 750. So it's 750 meters cubed. Now, there is a little formula we can make for the rate. So the rate of anything, for this, will be the volume gained over time. Now, with this question though, we're interested in the time it will take. It says how long will it take. So we're actually looking at the time. So it will be time equals the volume, which is 750, over the rate, which is 15. So 750 divided by 15 is 50. So it will take 50, and let's have a look. It says per minute. So it would be 50 minutes. So we've got to first of all realise that these triangles are similar, so we can work out what the scale factor is. We need two corresponding sides, which I'm just going to pick these top ones, and we're going to work out the scale factor from those. Now, the scale factor is how to get from the smaller to the bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 91 divided by 13, which is 7. So we know we times 7 to get from the small to the big. Now here we've got a problem because we're actually going from the big to the small. And when we go the opposite way around, so instead of times 7, we're going to divide by 7. So on our calculator we do 126 divided by 7, and we get the answer 18. There are a few different ways you could answer this question. I'm going to do it with a tree diagram, but you didn't need to draw a tree diagram to answer this question. So we've got our first tree, which is our first bus. And the choices are male and female. And we've got our second kind of branch, I suppose. And it's still male and female. And this is our second bus. So the property of male on a first bus is 9/15. And therefore the property of female is 1 minus 9/15, which would be 6/15. Male on the second bus is 7/15. And so female would be 8/15, because they need to add up to 1. And it's independent, so these will be the same. And the question is basically asking what is the probability that both will be female. So to have both female, we need to have gone down this line at the start and then this line again. Okay, so looking at the fractions along the way, it's 6/15 and 8/15. The word "and" in probability means times. So whenever you're finding the probability of getting to an outcome, so this outcome will be FF, because they're both female, you are multiplying the fractions that you go across. So it would be 6/15 times 8/15. So 6 times 8 is 48. And times the bottoms, 15 times 15 is 225. Now you can actually cancel that down. So what you can do is you can divide top and bottom by 4. And that will give you 16. Is it 4? No. You can times top and bottom by 3. And that would be 16/75. So either 48/225 or 16/75. What I'm going to start off by doing is rearranging this equation so that it kind of matches this one. So I'm just going to write it down. And we want the n to be -2. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my rearranging lines in. And we're just going to add 10 to both sides. Now, we've already got this line drawn for us on this graph. And so all we need to do is draw this line. So we've got y equals 10x squared plus 8x minus 2 drawn for us. We just need to draw this line, which is y equals 10, and see where they cross over to find the solutions. So y equals 10 will be all the way up at the top. Let's just make sure I get it nice. There we are. I need to move that up a little bit. There we are. And let's read off the values that that gives us. So it comes down here, and it comes down here. So the values it comes down to are -1.6 and 0.8. And those are our solutions. So we've got a right angle triangle here, and we are given 2 lengths and we're looking for an angle. So whenever you've got a right angle triangle with 2 lengths and an angle involved, it's going to be trigonometry. So first thing we're going to do with trigonometry is we're going to look at labelling the sides. So the one opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse, the one opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now we're going to cross out the opposite because it's not needed, because it doesn't have a number or a letter next to it. And we're going to write out SOHCAHTOA, which we do every time we do trigonometry. So SOHCAHTOA. And we're going to look and see which one we're going to use. Well, we've crossed out the O, and so it's not going to be SO or TOA, it's going to be CA. And we're going to rewrite that as cos x, the C stands for cos, and the x is the angle, equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And we are going to rewrite that with the values. So it's actually cos x, because we're looking for the angle. and the adjacent is 2.4, and the hypotenuse is 5.6. So we're going to get our solving lines in, and what we're going to do is we're going to inverse cos both sides, because we're looking for just x, and the inverse cos is just the opposite of cos, and you normally press the shift button on something on your calculator to get to it, and then when we inverse cos that, we get 64.623 blah blah blah, and 2 decimal places, which it asks us for in the question, is 64.62. So we notice with the simultaneous equations, we've got the coefficients of the x and the y's different, and I always focus on the y's, so I'm going to make the y's the same. And there's no reason you couldn't focus on the x's and make the x's the same, it's just I tend to always focus on the y's. So what I'm going to do is figure out what 3 and 8, so I'm ignoring the signs, what's the lowest common multiple of 3 and 8, so what's the first number in both their times tables, and that's going to be 24, so I need to make them both 24. So I'm going to write out the first equation, so 2x minus 3y equals 12. Get my lines in, and I notice that I'm going to times everything by 8 to make that y, the coefficient of the y, to be minus 24. So we got 16x minus 24y, which is good, that's what we wanted, and then we're going to do 12 times 8, which is 96. Going to write the second equation, so we've got 3x plus 8y equals minus 7, and this time I'm going to times everything by 3, and so we've got 3 times 3, which is 9x, plus 24y, which is good, that's what we wanted, and then minus 7 times 3, which is minus 21. So I'm going to write these out again, so 16x minus 24y equals 96, and 9x plus 24y equals minus 21. So with simultaneous equations we're working downwards, so I'm just going to show that with circles. Make sure the signs go with the y's. And we're either going to add or subtract to these. I'm just going to make that more clear, that's 96. And to know whether we're going to add or subtract, we look at the one we've made the same, so with the y's we've made the same, and we look at the signs. If the signs are the same, we're going to subtract. If they're different, we're going to add. So S in the same is S in subtract, the D in the different is the D in add. Well, looking at them, they are different because the first one's a negative 24, the second one's a positive 24. So we are going to be adding, but we're not just going to add those, we're going to add all of them going downwards. So we're going to do our kind of sum line, and we're going to add going downwards. So 16x plus 9x is 25x. Minus 24 plus 24 is going to be 0, which is good. That's what we wanted. We want to get rid of the y's. And then we've got 96 plus minus, so effectively minus 21, which is 75. Do a quick solving by dividing both sides by 25. And we've got x is equal to 3. Now we know what x is, but we've got to find out what y is. So what we're going to do is substitute the value of x into the first equation. So we've got 2 times 3 minus 3y equals 12. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, so we're going to take away 6 both sides. And we've got a minus 3 as the coefficient there, so we're going to divide both sides by minus 3. So we've got y equals minus 2. To work out the total surface area of the cone, we've got to first of all work out the curved surface area. And the formula for that is pi RL, with L being the slanted length. And this 13 here gives us the slanted length, so it's pi times the radius, which is 5, times 13. And that's going to be 204.203, blah, blah, blah. We'll keep that in our calculator. We've got to then work out the area of the circle at the bottom. So the area of the circle, which the formula is pi r squared. So it's going to be pi times 5 squared which is 78.539 blah blah blah, and so the total surface area is just a matter of adding those together. And that will give us 282.743 blah blah blah. And 2 decimal places, that's going to be 282.74. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.